I didn't find out about my 2-year girlfriend's infidelity until 3 months after it happened, but I was the last to laugh. My ex and I first connected while we were both in college. She was 22 and me 24. Before her, I hadn't actually dated anyone. We were friendly, but I had recently ended a bad relationship that lasted a year. The other girl had a severe case of depression. She was so deeply sad that I could do anything for her, even though I loved her. Being an empath, I could feel her melancholy seeping into me. I ended it then. Since we shared an apartment building, it was my ex who made the initial approach. I had made extra efforts to assist her on a few occasions, but it wasn't until she requested a ride that our friendship and then our relationship began. Whether she was at home or closing the sandwich shop where she worked, I would spend hours with her. She was taking time off from school because she was depressed and had broken off from a relationship about a year prior. From what I understand, she never completed her education and had twice moved to different colleges. Her narrative of being duped and deceived by her former partner brought us together, but I now doubt the veracity of it. We grew to be indivisible. It was only after 2 months of being friends with benefits that she introduced me to her parents. After a few months, I was interested in her and didn't want any other females to be my girlfriend. She rejected, stating that her prior engagement had kept her from being ready. This ought to have been my first warning sign, but like the fool that I was, I chose to overlook it. We kept dating just. Neither she nor I dated anybody else. I brought up our status once more a month later since, if we were exclusive in the first place, there was no reason not to just say it. She persisted in resisting it. During our relationship, there were moments when everything appeared ideal. Everything I liked seemed to appeal to her. She shared my objectives and we just appeared to be a great fit. But occasionally I would hear disparaging comments made about me. Sometimes she would discuss her many ex-partners and make comparisons to me. Sometimes, over something so little, we would quarrel. I would attempt to defuse the situation, but she wouldn't listen. I would occasionally chase after her when she would run out of my flat. She would become upset with me for doing that and tell me to give her some room. She would then accuse me of not caring about her if I didn't follow after her the next time she did it. She also started to gaslight me on some things I thought I remembered her saying, even though I had no idea what gaslighting was at the time. However, I followed it like a fool in love. When I talked about her, a lot of my friends would say things like, "You could do better." Or she didn't treat me right, but I would just shrug them off. Folks, pay attention to your pals, they genuinely want the best for you. I would still bring up being formal boyfriend and girlfriend after a year of dating, but she remained strong. I was the finest guy she had ever dated, yet she would still insist she wasn't ready. I didn't like her friends, but all of them knew we were dating. She would always want me to hang out with them, but I'm not the type of person who responds well to cliches. I would also use the fact that I'm allergic to cats and that they have one as an excuse. As time passed, we went on dates. She called me every night, and we talked on the phone until one of us woke up the next morning. She mentioned that I was consoling her and got her to sleep since she was depressed. She would occasionally even get physically aggressive with us as our issues persisted. She gave me 2 really harsh slaps. She did both because she thought it would be humorous, not because we were arguing. I told her over and over again it was rude, and that I expected the same in return since I would never do that to her. I don't really. Need you, my roommate knows all the guys in the building who would be willing to have casual makeouts, she once said during one of our arguments. After dating for a little over a year, she caved in and made the decision to become a girlfriend-boyfriend. However, it seemed to me that she only revealed it to her family. Although I felt it was strange, I ignored it because I had achieved my goal. I'm going to be clean and admit that there have been moments when I wasn't the ideal significant partner. The burden of job, school, family, and her became to be too much at times. I also struggle with depression. I got angry, but I didn't hurt her. I would bring up the things she had done to cause me pain. We split up many times. She would occasionally break up with me, and occasionally I would break up with her. However, every time, one of us would give in and return to the other. I was once a little manipulative and damaged myself to demonstrate to her how much it was hurting. While we were dating, she also admitted to self-harm and suicide thoughts, and to be quite honest, it was from her that I got the notion. I was genuinely infatuated with her. She assured me she was at my side. We spoke about getting married, having kids, moving in together, etc. She relocated twice during this period, moving to her parents' home about an hour north and subsequently to an apartment across the street. She hosted a party while residing in the flat across the street. Only me and her buddies stayed to assist clean up once it was finished. She said this demonstrated why I would be an excellent spouse. I saw her nearly every week after she moved in with her parents. But I started to realize that there was occasionally a little gap. She was responding to my calls and messages less quickly, But she still expected a prompt response if she phoned or contacted me. She could always count on me to be there for her. Even at 1 in the morning on the day I had job and school. I started to recommend getting engaged after a few months, but she immediately started acting like the girlfriend she had previously been with her partner. She would cite her previous relationship's despair as justification. She then requested if we might resume our casual dating relationship. I had never done something as stupid as this. I gave my okay. This would prove to her that I was the right man for her, I thought. She would go on dates during the ensuing months. But she would always tell me about them and brag about how much better I was. I promised her that if she met someone she wanted to pursue, I would stop our relationship and she could go after him, but I still didn't date since I was a sap in love with her. I was doing all of this for her even though she wasn't even my girlfriend anymore. I realized after talking to my friends and family. I informed her this, and she agreed, saying that until we resumed being exclusive, any physical relationship would terminate. But it didn't. When we went on dates, she would put pressure and guilt trips on me until I gave in. Then, without warning, she would get upset and ask, "Why couldn't you resist? How come I didn't stop her?" She started acting harsh and abusively. The worst thing she ever said to me was that she would never inform me if she were pregnant, and that she would be the only one to make that decision. That broke my heart since I've always wanted to be a father and would never leave my kids alone. But all I would do was argue with her while we continued to discuss our future together. She would exclaim, "It looks like the cutest baby that could have been ours." When she saw a mixed baby, I'm Latino and she was white. She used to call me or ask, "Would you still marry me?" whenever she was feeling down. And I would say, "I love you, of course." I didn't start to feel something more was amiss until Christmas, when visiting my brother in Florida. She would not reply when I would text her. At night, I'd give her a call to do the phone thing. She declined to respond. However, I sensed something was wrong when she contacted me once and asked if I had a certain movie on DVD. When I questioned why, she claimed she wanted to watch it with her family. She kind of came to see me as I started the new semester of school after returning from vacation. For whatever reason, she arrived to my institution, misplaced her Fitbit, and phoned me for assistance. We spent some time together after I arrived to help, but I sensed something wasn't quite right. She then said she had something to chat to me about and asked if I could come see her at her parents' house in 2 days. I realized then what was about to happen. I prepared for the worst by speaking with a few of my pals. It was late when I arrived at her parents' place. At 10 p.m., she requested me to come. We spoke for between 30 and 60 minutes after she got into my car. She informed me that she was done dating me. I concurred. I questioned her if it was someone else and told her I had sensed her growing distant. She refuted the existence of anything extra. She claimed she just didn't think we were meant to be together anymore. But she continued to say other things. She said that she had never thought of me as a potential spouse, that she never witnessed our marriage and children. That from the start she had always known. She went on to say that because I am Latino and she is white, her children will resemble her. This was yet another reason she didn't want to be with me. Now, since she likes to brag about how progressive and non-racist she is, this is particularly humorous. Yes, I was stunned by this. I thought back to all of our plans, to all of the times she had asked if I would marry her, to all of the times she had discussed our imagined offspring. That was the most painful thing. I told her I loved her, and that I thought our relationship was over. We agreed not to communicate. She made the decision to block me on Facebook, claiming that she would do it as she knew that if I blocked her, I wouldn't be able to keep her blocked. Fine, I said. In the event of an emergency, none of us ended up banning the other on our phones. My family wasn't in the state. I had mixed emotions as I drove away, sadness and a heavy weight being lifted off of me. The next month was a struggle upward. At night, I would get melancholy. I saw that she had turned me into a codependent being. She called every night, and I had become used to her calls. I was really lonely. Even though I spent a lot of hours sobbing on my bedroom floor, I put all of my energy into my friends, education, and career. However, a month or so later, I received an early morning call from her. Believing it to be an emergency, I responded. No, it wasn't. She appeared to have butt-called me, which defied logic. It'd been a month since we last chatted. What were the possibilities that she would call me by mistake? There was a talk going on, but it was faint. Her voice was there, but so was a voice I didn't know. Undoubtedly, it was a man. The call stopped, but I think I heard something about snow and my name was mentioned. I contacted a few acquaintances, and while I know I shouldn't have, I found out she was seeing someone else. Then I made contact with her. I asked her if she was okay even though I knew I shouldn't have. Her response took many days to get through. Then she explained that while she had butt-phoned me, she had really wanted to talk to me. We conversed as if nothing had changed for a short while after she said how much she missed my companionship. She informed me that she was seeing someone. She questioned how I had heard, so I told her through friends, but then I noticed the guy's image. She started chatting about him and his shortcomings. I merely listened, but I started to have strange feelings about it. Then she said something about his hair being strange, to which I said, yeah, it kind of is. However, it seems that she had been talking about his hair for years, and then started to wonder how I could have known what it looked like at the time. I apologized, I believed you were referring to this moment. Then she revealed to me that she had been receiving a lot of strange friend requests on Facebook lately, and inquired as to whether they were from me. They weren't. Soon after, we had to part ways, and I started to feel strange about it. Though I was first pleased for her, the more I gave it some consideration, the more I understood that I didn't want to speak with her any longer. The next day, I sent her a message saying, although I enjoyed our conversations, I don't think we should speak again, she concurred. I blocked her number after that. A week later, even though my phone hadn't rung, I discovered I had a message while on campus. She was the one who asked whether I was at home. She arrived to drop off a few items. Personally, I didn't think anything was worth her going back for. And the fact that she had came to my front door to leave the goods there while no one was home irritated me. I was quite irritated. I'd instructed her to stop contacting me. I then made the decision to email her. I basically informed her that, although I had loved her with all of my heart, she had abused me, lied to me, and other things. I asked her to give my regards to her parents for their kindness. They actively told me what a great boyfriend I was, and we had a decent connection. I continued by telling her that I wanted no communication from her, and that she was now blacklisted on my phone. I mentioned that, although we now live an hour away, it would still be feasible for us to cross paths because of friends who live nearby and other factors. I informed her that if we cross paths, I will treat you the same manner that you treat me. I'll treat you like a friend if you treat me like one. I will treat you like an enemy if you treat me like one. I will treat you as though you don't exist if you treat me like that. I didn't think I would hear back from her after sending the email. I was so incorrect. I heard back from them after a few days. From her father. She has a lawyer for a father who used to be in the Marines. He said in his email that I ought to leave his daughter alone. I'm not sure how I was doing, being an hour away and preoccupied with friends, job, and school, but he accused me of stalking her. He said that I had made up Facebook profiles in order to stalk her online. Again, I didn't make any to do that. I had once or twice glanced at her account through a friend's account, but that was it. Who hasn't, after all? He then emphasized the portion where he said, I consider this a threat, and proceeded to abuse her the way she treated me. He then threatened to seek a restraining order if I didn't leave her alone. I was astounded. I'd always had an excellent relationship with her dad. I was reading something that I just couldn't believe. I answered him after talking to a few others and reviewing some law in university. Look, I don't want anything to do with your daughter, I informed him. It was she who struck up the conversation again. Actually, a week ago, she visited my residence without my knowledge. Why would she take the chance to visit my residence if I'm a stalker? I informed him that no court would ever issue a restraining order against them since we both knew the things he had claimed were unfounded. I threatened to harm him and his children if he didn't get in touch with me again. That's when I thought, what the F is going on? What tales did she tell about me to others? Which sad story is she telling, and why? My pals were astounded when I told them what had transpired. They merely advised me to be glad since I escaped a nuclear explosion. Though, as I've already mentioned, this is a lengthy narrative about cheating. I didn't think the story would finish there. Thus, our split occurred in January. My ex-boyfriend just got engaged. A buddy of mine messaged me while I was at work soon after the first week of April. It completely stunned me. It was just 3 months ago. It just didn't make sense to the girl who had always complained about how difficult relationships had been for her due of her violent, unfaithful ex-fiancé. My buddy informed me that an interesting comment someone had made on her announcement was what caught her attention. The individual congratulated her on becoming engaged and expressed happiness that she was able to facilitate their meeting in November. Back when we continued to go out. Yes, we weren't exclusive at that time, but I still think it was cheating because I had offered her many opportunities to end the relationship before she lied about seeing someone else. I was furious. Everything fell into place after that. That's why she started to seem aloof around Christmas. She wanted to watch the movies with that person. Although that stung, I moved on with my life. I was still struggling with trust and sadness. I told a few folks about it. Churchgoers and friends. However, I discovered more about her the more I talked about it. Those who were unaware of our relationship but had known her acknowledged that the girl had problems. They definitely shouldn't have told me what they did, but whatever. She never truly cared about me, as I started to learn from all the horrible things she had spoken about other people. All she wanted was someone to take care of her, and then let her go when someone better arrived. I came to see that it wasn't who she was that drew me in, but rather the persona she put on. She was aware of my existence, and that I was a kind man, and concluded that I had enough empathy to fool. I believed I was dating someone like myself, but in reality, I was dating a narcissist because she just mirrored herself back at me. However, this made me realize a lot about myself, including the fact that I should be cautious about who I show my affection to, and that I care too much and love too passionately. Learning experience gained. After 6 months, I still hadn't seen her, but I'd heard that she and her husband had returned to my hometown. That much is true, I'm not a stalker. She had a couple run-ins with some of my friends, one of whom humiliated her by bringing up a sexual insinuation regarding something she had done. An invitation to a friend's wedding arrived. Although I was unable to attend the ceremony itself, I did attend the reception. I had just completed a little speech that I was going to make fun of my friend. The guy laughed so loudly and annoyingly you wouldn't believe it. A mutual acquaintance entered the room as I was wrapping up my remarks and was about to sit down, and who trailed closely after her spouse and myself. I was a little taken aback when I saw her. Our eyes locked as she was ready to enter the room. And in that instant, she swiftly followed her husband out of sight by pushing him back into the corridor rather than entering the room. After being taken aback, I went to the opposite side of the structure to gather my feelings and thoughts. All in all, I was all right, but it was intriguing to witness her startle me. When I returned to the room a few minutes later, I saw that neither my ex-wife nor her husband had ever been inside. My friend said yes when I questioned if he had invited her. He claimed he hadn't given it any thought when I informed him that giving him a heads up would have been appreciated. He was more of a mutual buddy of one of my closest pals than a close friend. After a few minutes, the newlyweds were ready for their first dance, so we all shifted some seats out of the way. My ex walked through the side of a door I was on, realized that I was right next to her, and quickly fled the room, her spouse being tugged behind her. With the exception of a few looks, we avoided each other for the remainder of the reception, but at that instant, I felt entire again. I felt broken and like a part of me had disappeared throughout the months following the separation. But now when I saw how she responded and how embarrassed she appeared to be, I felt my strength returning. I had never felt true happiness before. I had won the breakup, even though she was married and I wasn't. She was embarrassed to look at me at all. Such issues did not arise for me. All in all, my conscience was clear. And here I am, writing this more over 4 years after the split. I'm content generally, even if I'm still single. And F you, Maddie, if you happen to read this. You're a housewife, and I'm the one that went on to finish college. All you're ever going to alter, after all that stuff about saving the world and are dirty diapers and being a effing liar and cheater.